What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm going to talk about what on earth NIO reported during their earnings, why they did end up actually not really meeting all expectations, but it wasn't necessarily a horrible earnings, so to speak. I'm also going to be talking about why tomorrow is going to be a massive day for the markets as we have CPI data coming out, and this will affect the markets. It will affect the economy and NIO and the entire stock market for tomorrow and for the next few weeks. Now, before I say anything about the CPI data, what NIO reported during their earnings, I do have to mention a couple of things real quick. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so don't take any of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. Not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and into the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed 6 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000, and you could always sell these 6 free stocks for cash and use that cash to buy some NIO shares for free in this limited time offer that ends in just 2 weeks. So please check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at NIO, currently it's actually in the red. It had a bit of a hit. It got hit pretty darn hard. That's because of what happened during their earnings and also other factors. Now, looking at this right here, if you look at their Q1 earnings report, you could see that they actually lost more money than many people would have expected. And that's despite the fact that they did do quite well when it comes to deliveries. So what's happening is NIO is getting more and more deliveries, but their revenue, not their revenue, their loss was actually bigger than a lot of people would have wanted. They lost $281 million in just the first quarter instead of the 68.8 million that they lost the year before. Now, why did this happen? It wasn't necessarily that the company's horrible. It's because they had these shutdowns, okay? And they had to keep pace with the demand, so it caused them to lose a lot more money. Things became very, very tough when they had these lockdowns, and I didn't think it would hurt them as bad during the first quarter because Q2 is where it got actually worse, at least the first half of Q2, maybe the first 2 months of it. But it turns out it did actually affect them for Q1 as well. Now, another thing that's important is the revenue. It still was up about 24% at 1.56 billion, which is not bad, pretty good actually. Their loss per share was 13 cents versus the 4 cents in the first quarter, but the expectations were supposed to be a loss of 14 cents. So I was correct about them beating on EPS. I was correct about them reaching the revenue expectations. Gross margin was 14.6% versus 19.5% a year earlier. Once again, 17.2% in the fourth quarter. So not necessarily horrible considering what was going on. And then cash at quarter end was $8.4 billion, a little bit down compared to the $8.7 billion at the end of 2021. So we could see the shutdowns in China were really affecting their business. Even towards the end of Q1, it played a very big role. And it's sad to hear this, right? And I think we're going to have a very similar earnings the next earnings that's coming out for Q2. However, it's not the end of the world because look at this right here. NIO also reported that it sees supply chain and production back to normal by the month of June. And that's going to be a lot better for the company as we are already in June and their supply chain issues should not be as bad. Production should be back to normal. And with that said, by the time we get the Q3 earnings report, right, in the next few months, I think that's going to be way better. And I think they're going to improve immensely. So I know the next earnings that they have may not be the best because of these lockdowns. I know it's very, very tough, but it's just something that happens. It's out of their control. We can't attack the company for it. And despite that, they're going to bounce back, in my opinion. They're going to come back to normal. They're going to see a big increase in the supply of their chips. Their improvements. They also are going to be expanding to many different countries all over the world. So I do think we're going to see a big improvement in their revenue, earnings per share, and they should actually report less losses than before. So right now, from a technical standpoint, it doesn't look like it's in the best of places. It looks to me like it's going to fill this gap down here. It might be back in that high $17 range relatively soon. And now, when it comes to the way NIO is moving, are we just going to continue to drop? Well, there's another big factor coming out for tomorrow because tomorrow is going to be a massive day, and we have the CPI report for tomorrow, and this is going to be a huge catalyst for the market. We're going to find out whether or not inflation is actually dropping, as CPI is the typically accepted report for inflation, right? It's reported on a month-to-month basis, and unfortunately, it was at about, I think, 8.3% for the last report last month. The month before that, it was at 8.5 or so percent. So it did start to decrease a little bit last month, and we want to see it to decrease again. We want it to be below 8.3% for sure. But the thing that's a little bit concerning is a lot of analysts out there are forecasting an 8.4% yearly increase. Now, that's not going to be good whatsoever. I'm going to show you why that's not good, because if you look at this right here, another forecast, I think this is from Wall Street, they're estimating an 8.4% yearly increase too. So some economists are saying it's going to be 8.3%. Others are saying a little bit higher. So that's not a good sign for the markets, in my opinion. Next week, I just want to note this real quick. We have PPI coming out. So it's basically the producer price index, which measures the average change over time in selling prices and for manufacturers. And we have the Fed meeting coming out on June 14th through the 15th. So all of these things are going to be affected by CPI. Here's what you got to be looking out for tomorrow morning. When CPI comes out, okay, if it's 8.2 to 8.3% or even higher than that, that's going to be pretty bad, because it's going to show very little improvement, and it's going to show that it may actually become higher, and it's not what we like to see. If it's too high, it's going to impact inventories, supply chains. It's going to have a negative effect on our economy. It may lead the Fed to becoming much more hawkish, and the market does not like that. The market also does not like uncertainty, which is why we saw a bit of a sell-off today. If it's 8.0 to 8.1%, that would be okay. I mean, I wouldn't say it's great, and that doesn't mean the market just won't crash or like take a bit of a hit. But what I want to say is, this would be a good sign though, because they would still show a decrease compared to last month when it was like 8.3%. And if we somehow get 7.9% or lower, that's going to be fantastic. And that is possible. I know many expectations are showing 8.3 to 8.4%, but 7.9% is not out of the question too. And if we get that, it would be fantastic. So what on earth do I think is going to happen? The truth is that there's no way I could really predict what exactly will happen. All I could say is just pay attention to each and every one of these. But so far, based off reports, based off what expectations are, the market doesn't like uncertainty, which is why the uncertainty caused the market to kind of drop. If you look at the SPY, it was down over 2.38%, down to 401. As for NIO, here's what I think is going to happen. I think downside is a little bit more probable for NIO. I think it's going to drop down to this level right here, to that low $18 level. Now, it's not the end of the world, because we have to see how CPI comes out. But even though I'm a very optimistic individual, I love to see what on earth these stocks could do. And I'm very bullish for NIO long term. And the markets, unfortunately, based off reports and expectations, it seems like uh, CPI may come out the same as last month or even higher, based off many expectations from economists and also from Wall Street and many different analysts from Bloomberg and different sources. So, I mean, you got to be prepared. That's the bottom line. You got to be prepared. You need to be cautiously optimistic. You have to remain cautious. You have to be prepared for anything. So I'm going to show this one last time. These are essentially what my like bracket levels would be, and I do think it's more likely to be one of these two. But like I said, we'll have to see the report first before making any particular claims. With that out of the way, as for NIO, I don't know exactly how CPI will affect it. I just think that downside's a little bit more probable. But based off the chart, based off the way it's been dropping, it looks to me like we're going to fill this gap down here, and we might be back to the low $18 level relatively soon. So with that out of the way, NIO's already down in the after hours too. With that out of the way, thank you for listening. Have a great rest of the day. I wish the best for each and every one of you. Stay strong, and just know there may be hardships, okay? Things may be tough, but it's not the end of the world. We're not losers, okay? It's just a temporary moment in time when we might see some red, we may see some choppy price action by the markets, but remember, the long-term future for American stocks, for many other stocks out there like NIO, for many EV companies, is still incredibly bright. I have not lost faith. You just need to remain patient. As the company improves fundamentally, it will bounce back, in my opinion. Thank you. Have a good one, and I will see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, and peace out.